for in such short times. But you can tell him with held high up that the Holy Quran is very vociferous on these matters and doesn't leave any detail out.
Could you kindly give us some hadith on this as well? And there's the issue coming up in this country.
The best hadith about the laborers' rights, not one hadith, there's so many traditions of the Holy Prophet, establishing the laborers' rights, establishing the slaves' rights, the household servants' rights, and telling you so much so that you should give them the same food which you eat in your houses. Don't make any distinction. You should clothe them with something like your own clothing as well. And the words used are such that no equal distribution is exercised. Only it is demanded that give them also a taste of the food you eat, give them also a taste of the dress you'd wear, with the result that Hazrat sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself practiced such kindness to his own servants that they were treated like sons. And this is a long story. We will speak of that later on sometimes. About Hazrat Ali, it is said that once he walked into a shop for buying, and there was a slave with him who was wearing a dress exactly like him, because he had received something from somewhere. He parted it in half, gave half to his slave and half he wore himself. And so it was difficult for the people to find out who was Ali and who was his slave, those who didn't know him. So he saw somebody important coming, people were turning to him and so on, but saw two people almost alike. So there's so many things which can be quoted in this regard. Then Hazur Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam has told us that before the perspiration of the laborer dries out, you pay him with his full labor. And always pay him. Then he says, pay him more than his dues, never less than his dues. If you pay less than the dues, then you will be answerable before your Lord. So what is full dues? Again, that is to be decided. According to the Holy Quran, some principles are laid down, what the word full dues means. And then Islam sees to it that no exploitation is exercised in any sphere of economy. This doing away with interest is one of the very strong measures. Doing away with the cartel system is also another measure. So you can't treat one single item alone without going into the whole setup. So labor is just a part of a system. So not only Islam is very clear on the labor's rights, but also the very system which it devises is a system of justice and fair play. In that system, the laborer would be very free and happy, and his basic fundamental rights would be guaranteed. Also that of his children. And when Islam says that if somebody has a capability, it is the right of the state to build that capability. Everybody should be treated according to the gifts of Allah to him. That means a poor man's child, if he has capability to rise to a certain degree of attainment of knowledge and he has no means, it would be the responsibility of the state to see to it. So the laborers' children also are guaranteed that if they are intelligent enough and laborious enough and serious enough to rise to a certain station and the poverty stands in their way, then Allah would see to it that the Islamic State helps such children. And despite the fact that we have no government anywhere, we have so much financial responsibility despite our legal sources, the financial burden on Ahmadiyyat is very great. Yet in Rabwa, we have demonstrated this type of Islamic attitude towards the poor, towards the laborer, nowhere in the world the laborer is paid such attention as it has been paid here, the labor has been paid in Qadian or in Rabwa. It is not only the fair distribution of wealth, it is also the fair treatment, the distribution of honor and honorable treatment for which the human beings vie. If you give somebody a bread and put him to a lower status, sometimes he would throw the bread away and fight for his right to be respected. This is why Marx once quoted here in London, writing to angels, he said that bread is not that man lives for, because then he was there, he felt insulted, and then he thought that all the system which just talks of bread is not enough. There is something like human values, and unless you pay respect to the human values, it is not the bread itself by which you can live. He himself had to admit it. So in a society like Rabwa, you would see laborers who would be invited to the highest society in their parties, in their marriages, who are met at in equal terms, who are requested for prayers by some rich people, and many highly placed people try to say Assalamu alaikum to them before they do. They live an honorable life, and also during their marriages and things, very quietly and very honorably, people as well as Jamaat helps them, and their daughters become the daughters of the whole society in this sense. And they also attend their marriages. Some of the children of hard laborers, grave diggers, were educated because they were intelligent and they rose to great heights. They became scientists and got established in some foreign countries, while no other grave digger can be treated like this anywhere in the world. And not only one, every child is a highly respectable member of the society, because the whole society paid that respect to that laborer. In Qadian, there used to be what was the name of the one who was called by children Bhinditori, but by the others he was highly respected. Khudabash, yes. There was a laborer, Khudabash, and the type of labor Islam produces is a very honorable type. He was so fond of saying his prayers in the mosque that he would leave his labor alone and run from the station back to the Masjid Mubarak and say his 5 times prayers there. And the small children used to tease him because he was very much annoyed when somebody called him Bhinditori. So he was called Bhinditori because he was banded in legs, banded legs. So, but that was, children do it to everybody, As far as the grown-ups were concerned, I have seen people, very rich people, bowing before him with respect, offering some gifts to him and requesting him for prayer. He was a highly respectable member of the society. Where can we produce such a laborer in the world?